Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this morning's webinar, this afternoon's, this evening's, depending on where you are. We're going to wait a couple minutes to get started while we wait for people to join. And if you will, while we're waiting, go ahead and use the chat button at the bottom and share with me where you're joining from, either your state, your country, your province. Love to hear where folks are coming from. Victoria, BC, welcome, Philip. Brazil, Miami, Colombia, Angela, thanks for joining us. Kore from Turkey, thank you so much for joining us today. Tunisia, Thailand, UK, Mumbai, London, Northern Ireland, Portugal. I was there a couple of years ago, beautiful country. Rome, Italy, India, wow, all over. Finland, Pakistan, welcome. Singapore, another Victoria, PC or Vancouver, BC. Fantastic. We're going to get started here in about 30 seconds. So just waiting for us to have critical mass on this webinar. If you're joining late, feel free to chat where you're joining us from. Jerry from Washington, DC, welcome. Ariel from France, welcome. I did not forget France. Happy to have you here. Luke from Utah, Myanmar. Fantastic. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get going. Again, thank you for joining us on this morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on where you're joining us from. My name is Jeff Hanks. I'm the head of marketing for Unity's Accelerate Solutions team. Accelerate Solutions is our professional services organization that does a lot of bespoke engagements with customers all over the world, from industry to games to film and media, some of the best in terms of working on very complex projects that deal with real-time 3D, digital transformation, and beyond. This is the second episode in our Road to the Metaverse executive series hosted by Ryan Peterson. In the first episode, which you can find a link to in the chat at the bottom, Ryan introduced the audience to the metaverse. And one of the things that he talked about is that the metaverse is really a sliding scale with consumer on one side and industrial on the other, and many things in between. The metaverse is many different things to many different customers. In today's episode 2, Flying into the Metaverse, we'll be focusing on the industrial metaverse and the construction of a digital twin at the Vancouver Airport Authority, something that Unity and the Vancouver Airport Authority, or YVR, has partnered on over the last couple of years together. And I think you'll agree with me that what they've built is just amazing. So I hope you're excited to see that. For those of you that did not join us for our first episode, it is hosted by Ryan Peterson, Unity's Vice President and Head of Accelerate Solutions. For those of you that don't know Ryan, he is the former CEO and co-founder of the Finger Food Advanced Technology Group. He's been with Unity for 2 years. He continues to be a leading voice in the metaverse and beyond, both within Unity and outside of it. Before I hand over to Unity, just a couple housekeeping, or before I hand over to Ryan, just a couple housekeeping topics for today. Ryan's presentation is going to last about 40 minutes, at the end of it, which we'll have about 15 minutes of Q&A. Please use the Q&A button at the bottom. Add any questions that you would like to have answered. We will respond to those at the end of the session. There will be an on-demand recording of this session available. For everyone attending this event, you'll get an email within about 1 to 2 days with those details. So please look for that. With that, handing over to you, Ryan.
Thanks, Jeff. So anyways, thanks for everyone for joining us today. Looking forward to this vibrant discussion with Lynette as she finishes her discussion. So here, click here. But just as a bit of an overview from my last presentation, we really view the metaverse as a sliding scale. It's not just as some Web3 project for live entertainment or a blockchain-based video game, but really encompasses all industries, whether it's manufacturing or we're doing digital twins of smart cities and smart infrastructure. It is a sliding scale. And then we look as a digital twin is really an outcome of a metaverse strategy that you may have for your business. And we look at a metaverse as really the world moving from a static environment to something that's consistently interactive. Metaverses are not just putting on a VR headset or some future AR device, really multi-platform from any screen, driving either different experiences for the consumer or new business outcomes. And it's collaborative. It's moving from an individual experience to a multi-user environment. And the big thing is it's a persistent connection. If you make a change in the metaverse, it remains changed. And that back and forth connection is, I think, unique to this kind of new era of technology. And really interesting is a lot of this technology, if you're in the video game industry, has been around for many years, so all the way back to the late 90s. We look at the multiplayer infrastructure we develop for any video game, whether it's World of Warcraft or Call of Duty, really turns into your multi-user collaboration environment. Mobile XR games enables a 3D rich environment to be able to do your work from. And game simulation, the AI bots that you play against and add that amazing interactive experience, that really is the baseline for driving a simulated environment. And then of course, game operation centers, real-time analytics, well, that's getting that real-time infrastructure that can drive, better business outcomes out of your digital twin investment. And this timing, like, why now? Well, it's technology adoption. There's this convergence of accessible technologies that can make what was once on a sketchboard or a whiteboard a reality. 5G technology enables to have a myriad of high-density sensors that you need this real-time infrastructure to take advantage of. The cloud infrastructure that the likes of Microsoft or Google or Amazon have been investing in enables to have access to rich data environments that where this interactive infrastructure actually makes sense to make those investments to build use cases that drive better user outcomes. And at the end of the day, everything's going to be moving to real time, whether it's driving real-time storytelling, new interactive products that are adjacent to your physical products that you're really releasing, or as in an environment is when I think you have a simulated environment, you're not making decisions of what happened in the past, but you're making decisions on probable future outcomes. And so completely shifting how you're viewing in the front mirror, not in the rear mirror as a business. And at its core, and this will be a theme of this series, and I will hammer it in over and over again, where you start is really thinking about the user. Whether it is a new consumer-facing product that you're creating or your internal staff that you want to drive a better workplace experiences, we really talk about having technology with purpose. And it's somewhat avoided where we create and make investments and they become, I call shelfware. You create something people get excited about, but no one actually uses it. I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago talking about an organization that spent billions of dollars on new technology and their uptake is 20%. Well, the reason is that they didn't start with the user, they started with technology. And so thinking about as we're investing in terms of building a digital twin for your operations, really thinking who you are building it for and why you're doing it and what are you sitting on top of? And I really believe that is the power of Unity, is that we can sit on top of a variety of different systems, whether it's from legacy systems or advanced new technology from different providers. That's the key to success, is not redoing your infrastructure, but how do you sit on top of it to drive the outcomes you're looking for, driving real ROI for your business. And that's why I'm really excited today to be talking about the Vancouver Airport Authority's digital twin. It's just a real mixture of of what I would say, what a digital twin, as I say, fantasy for a technologist to drive into is, if you've been to any airport, there's a logistics systems, there's you have consumer retail experiences. It's just a myriad of industries and different technology systems that you need to link together to create something that is magic for your users. We really look at it as a fusion of different industries that you can bind together to, as a technology platform. What is a system-wide view, and how do you create outcomes out of just such a myriad of vendors management, all the different airlines that you have to interact with. It's just a fascinating space. And so I'm really looking forward to today to introduce everyone to Lynette Dijon to talk about their journey on creating their digital twin, and in terms of what it means for their business, especially during these crazy, both economic and social times. So Lynette, if you can turn on your camera, that'd be great. Introduce your talk today, and we'll, as you finish up, I'll turn on my camera again for a great fireside chat.
Great. Hi, everyone. Super excited to be here. I'm going to start by acknowledging that today in Canada, because that's where I'm at, is National Indigenous Peoples Day and the 5-year anniversary of YVR's historic Sustainability and Friendship Agreement, which we signed with Musqueam. That's the territory that YVR sits on, and that's where I'm joining you from today. And you're going to see during the presentation how our digital twin also represents Musqueam people and the territory as we are integrating truth and reconciliation into this work. So I'm going to share my slide deck with you. Hopefully you can see it. So when COVID hit, aviation was one of the hardest hit industries, I think, anywhere. Our traffic dropped by over 90%, and it stayed at very, very low levels for quite a while. In fact, even longer than the US and some other countries around the world. And it's only recently that we're seeing that the traffic is picking up. So we really knew that when we were coming out of the pandemic, we had to be a different airport. We needed to look at things quite differently. So I'm going to talk to you today about our journey, YVR's journey into the metaverse and our digital twin. And I believe that the digital twin is an absolute game changer in the business of airports and will be key enabler to our strategy. And my hope is that you will see applicability to your industry, whether it's in aviation or not. I'm going to start by giving you some context of the airport. Then I'm going to walk you through how we did our initial data capture. I'll demonstrate both our 2D and 3D models, and they will be live versions. I'm going to talk to you about our innovation hub at YVR, and then finish off with a little bit of how to do it. All right, so this here, YVR is the biggest airport in Western Canada, second largest in Canada, and we're located in the Vancouver region along the coast of British Columbia. You can see here, this is an image from our 3D model of the digital twin, and we're surrounded by the North Shore Mountains and the Pacific Ocean, and it's absolutely beautiful here. So if you ever get a chance to come to Vancouver, say yes, not only because we want you to use the airport, but I think you'll see it's an absolute beautiful place to be. As I said, we really knew as we came out of COVID that we had to change our strategy. And so our strategy is focused in 4 different areas. First is financial. We have to be more cost efficient and have more diverse revenue streams coming out. While we thought we had diversification in revenue because we had duty free, we had parking, we had food and beverages, they were all dependent on passengers. And so, right now, through COVID, we lived off our credit card. We didn't get any direct funding from the government. So we have to look at this differently, and we have to leverage all of our assets, including our lands, cargo operations, and I think you'll see some digital opportunities that I'm going to share with you. Second area is that we really are clear on the role that we play as a gateway to the new economy, serving our local community and in new ways in helping grow businesses and continuing our work with truth and reconciliation with Musqueam. At an airport, it's just a confluence of ideas and goods and trades and culture. I always say that I can be anywhere in the world at the end of the gate. So the whole world is right here at an airport, and it's pretty an amazing place when you think about it in that context. The third area that's really important for us is we need to be a leader in climate. As an airport, airports play a significant role in greenhouse gas emission. Everyone talks about what happens in the air, but a lot of greenhouse gas emissions are emitted on our airfield. Canada is a very large country with a relatively low population. And so we saw during the pandemic the importance of the aviation industry, where vaccines, PPE all came through our airport, right from that to how much we missed our friends and family and how important that connection is. The problem isn't flying. The problem is the amount of GHGs that are emitted in our industry. So in BC, we're feeling the impact of climate change. Last summer, our province had a heat dome with record-shattering temperatures for several days in a row, where over 600 people tragically died. We had a record number of wildfires that were bigger. There were more of them. They lasted longer than they ever have in the past. In fact, a whole town sadly burned to the ground. And then in November, we had an atmospheric river event with record-breaking floods that washed out every major transportation artery and infrastructure into the Vancouver region. And we were separated from the rest of Canada, and we were even on gas rationings for a while. So we really must be leaders in solving this problem. We can't control the emissions of many of our partners. We have a lot of partners here, but we can play a leadership role, and the digital twin can help people viscerally experience what is happening and help solve this problem. It's also very smart for business because, as we know, if you have efficiencies on greenhouse gas emissions, it also drops your costs. So it's very good business to do it this way. And then the last area that we had was that we need to look at everything through a digital lens. Technology and innovation are fundamental to enable all of the three areas I just talked about. So that's where the digital twin plays a significant role. So now I'm going to talk to you a bit about how do we do the data capture. You can see from the center picture there that that's a picture that was taken when we had no traffic. There was nothing happening on the airfield, so it was the perfect time to do an aerial capture for our 3D model. We had a helicopter that we equipped with some high fidelity cameras and some LiDAR, and we flew it around. You can see here in the picture where the orange is. Those are the flight patterns. So the helicopter went back and forth and crossed, and it captured all the data. And we captured all the lands around Sea Island, including specific territories that Musqueam wanted captured, as well as the city of Vancouver. We're starting to see some federation of digital twins. So the city of Vancouver has a digital twin, we have a digital twin, and so we wanted to be able to capture data so we could share it as time goes on. The other picture here, the colored one, is the LiDAR scan. So everything that's close is in red, further away is in blue. So that's a point cloud mesh, and that's what's used to create the 3D model along with the photo capture. We did the exact same thing. We took the same equipment and we put it on a car and we drove it on the ground. And then you see a picture there in the corner. That's where the same equipment is mounted on a cart, and we used it for the indoor capture. So we captured it from the air, from the ground, and inside the terminal. You can also see there the gentleman in the yellow vest. He's from Geosim. Geosim was a partner that it's a local Vancouver company that is doing the 3D modeling for us. And the other gentleman is Stuart, and Stuart is Musqueam, and he was very helpful to us and did a lot of the work around surveying, which anchors the digital twin from a GPS perspective. He also helped with the scanning, and now he's one of our developers that works on the digital twin. So it's great to have him part of the team. So now I'm going to show you the two-dimensional version. So this is live. This is exactly what's happening right now at YVR Airport. You can see there the overall building, and anything in red shows you where there's delays on flights. That's our international part of our terminal. So there's some delayed flights coming in there, but everything happening in the domestic is on time, which is really nice to see. You can see here that we have what we monitor on the digital twin. Along the bottom, you can see connections, pre-board screening, customs, and safety and security. So those are the major processes that are important to us as airports. And along the bottom here, it has by time. It's divided into 15-minute increments. It has historically what's happened. It's 9:22 right now, and then it has a predictive nature to it as well. So I can click on, I can see here at 10:30 to 10:45 in customs, it tells you what our predicted passengers are and then what the threshold. So we talk to our operations people and they determine what the threshold is for those processes, and then that's how we know whether it's getting close to it or it's oversubscribed, and then it turns red. This information is in the hands of our frontline people, so they can be able to know where there's congestion happening in the terminal. Passengers, you can see here, passenger counts. It tells us how many people are arriving, departing, connecting from domestic, transborder, and international, what's happening right now. And you can do it by different times a day, so you know what's actually happening. You can also see a bunch of things moving around on the airfield. You can see a plane there, that's Japan Airlines. It's taking off, it's departing. You can see an Air Canada flight here is also taking off, and I don't see any flights that are landing. So also there's different vehicles that are moving around in the airfield, and it tracks that. That's using a data feed called MLAT, or multilateration, and that allows us to track exactly what equipment and what planes are moving around on the airfield. And I'm going to come back to why that's really important to us in a minute when I talk about GHG emissions. We've also started integrating sensors. So there's sensors here. So you can see here, we have a camera on the curb. And this camera is looking for vehicles that have been left unattended, that they're idling for too long. I know none of you on this call would, park your car at the curb of the airport and then go in and leave it. I know you would never do it, but there's actually people that do, and it causes a lot of safety concerns. So we only have a few people monitoring the curb, so they have this tool in their hand and they're able to go and address it. And then they can deal with the issue. Flight information is also in here, so all the flight information that is happening is also integrated. So our operations people have all this data real time with them at all times. So that shows you our situational awareness tool. We also have done some work for our maintenance people. So our maintenance crew, this is the largest building in BC, and they have a number of work orders that they're always working on. So you can see here that they have assigned me work orders. I think it's just for fun. I never get them done. But if I was a real maintenance person, I would have a list of all of my work orders, and then they just click on it. It's integrated with our Maximo system, and so they can fill out all the information that they need in order to close this work out, right? They all carry iPads, and they are able to use the twin in that way. They're also able to click into a room, a specific room, and it will tell you exactly what's happening there. And there's this unassigned work order. So this is kind of the while you're there feature. If they're in a room, they can click in and they can see if there's any work orders around them that they need to do. And that saves them from going from one part of the terminal to another part of the terminal to another part of the terminal. It makes them much more efficient on how they get work done. So super excited to have worked with our maintenance people. They love this tool, have been really instrumental in helping us with it. The third area is we built a Pure D during COVID, and we just opened it now. You can see here, this is the outdoor atrium where there's Douglas fir trees really living in there, and it's open to the outdoors so that when it snows inside the terminal. And this model was done not with the LiDAR capture, it was actually done with CAD drawings, and we converted them into Revit models. So there are a number of ways to get the data into the twin, and this just shows you a version of how it is with using the CAD options. Here, what we're going to be doing is integrating the FID screen. So exactly what you'd be seeing in the terminal, you'd be able to see on that. We haven't quite done that yet. And then if you go down through the terminal, you can remember the passenger counts I showed you before. We can turn them into avatars and do all kinds of simulations about, if there's a disaster and everyone has to leave the terminal quickly, we can model out what that looks like. Or seating, is it in the right place, or do we have everything configured properly? So it's an incredibly good tool for us. And then the last one I wanted to show you in this model is that I talked about Musqueam. We have the largest indigenous native art collection in North America here at YVR. And so here's, when you come into the custom hall, this is a beautiful piece of art. This is a picture of it. And then we have done a museum grade digital twin of these two pieces of art. They're absolutely spectacular. The quality of them and the grain of the wood and everything is shown in the digital twin. And we are working on doing a proof of concept of how do we perhaps do NFTs on our pieces of art, so it creates a revenue stream for the artists. So that's something that we're just embarking on right now. Very exciting for the First Nations artists. All right, so that is the 2D. Now I'm going to take you into the 3D model. So this is the 3D model. This is the broad view of the airport. Like I said, this is the real twin that we're working in right now. So we're gonna fly out, and you can see some of the detail of the digital twin. We are on an island, so you'll see the water that's around us. The twin is higher fidelity as you get closer in, and the model isn't complete yet. We still have we're always dropping new ones and doing more of the 3D modeling, but the terminal itself is in pretty good state, I think you will see, but you can see all the runways there. We're going to take you down. I'll show you Pure D, which was the area that I just showed you from the inside. Just going to turn around and look at it. So that's it right there. Everything in this model is actually a structure. So you'll see that we can move the gates around. And this is really helpful for if we get, an A380 in here, making sure that it fits on the gate properly. The fit tests are very, very complicated processes at an airport, and to be able to do it with a twin is phenomenal. I talked earlier about MLAT data, and so while everything is static in this version as it sits right now, in the next little while everything will be moving around according to the MLAT data that you saw on the other twin. And what that will do is it will help us. We've done a model where as the planes are moving, when it gets to 3,000 feet, it takes into account the size of the engine, the different aircraft, figures out how much GHGs are emitted on landing, on the runway, taxiing, going to gate. And so the use case that we started out with was, how might we know how much GHGs are being emitted real time by passenger or by piece of cargo? And if you think about that, the power in that and understanding it, right now there's a lot of estimates, or really high level estimates of what happens from a GHG perspective. We are going to have to be accountable and responsible to be able to report in more detail as an airport. But I think the power of this is how you can experience the movement in a visceral way, and working with our partners to be able to look at new ways of gating and new options for dropping those GHGs. So I'm really, really excited about that project. So this is our airfield. Going to quickly fly over to the ground side. And we'll show you, we'll get in close so that you can see some of the detail. You can see all the pieces of equipment that are on our airfield. There's so many assets at an airport that having them in the twin and knowing where things are is going to be a real advantage to our people working here. So that's the SkyTrain that comes into the airport, the actual curbside. And you can see even the stone fascia is really, really good quality. You see that asphalt, how good a quality it is. But it's quite remarkable what we've been able to do with the twin. So, and we're going to switch back to the presentation. Okay. So in order to do this, we've done a lot of work with our partners, and our partners' ecosystems. We wouldn't be able to do this with ourselves. We certainly have a great partnership with Unity. I talked about GeoSim, the local company. When we look at things at an airport, it's really important that we look from twinning perspective: people, planes, and bags, as well as cargo. And Vanderlande is our partner that does our baggage system. And so they're working on twinning the baggage system, which will integrate into our digital twin. So you will be able to have the full picture. Our innovation hub allows us to, the innovation hub was set up to be able to help us partner with different companies. I believe that any technology or any technology can be tested and trialed in an airport. And so testing and trialing different things is really important for BC Institute of Technology. They started a program that was on Internet of Things, and their students, instead of having their own lab and building their own lab, they actually used YVRs as their whole lab. And the students are just finishing a project where they were doing water quality management. So the students figured out what the sensors should be, how it should be housed, where they should be located around Sea Island, how do you backhaul that data, and how do you do the analytics on it. So again, it gives the students something real to work on. Also working with Bosch, we have a lot of camera technology we have the largest CCTV network, I think anywhere in the province. And so a lot of that camera technology comes from Bosch. And so we work with them for them to try their new technologies at the airport. And the advantage of our innovation hub is that it's very much focused on adoption. It's real problems that need to be solved. I would say that we have a lot of problems. We are your problem. And technology companies really need somewhere to test and trial. But they can do it in the physical world, but they can also do it in the virtual world. And that's that connection that we've seen a lot of interest from a lot of companies around our innovation hub. Next one is, so here's just finishing up the how. We were really focused on the adoption first. It's all about the mindset. I've really been reflecting on how do we get out of the gates so quickly with this digital twin. And it's the mindset of a whole bunch of different people. First of all, cyber and privacy by design. I want to make sure that everybody understands everything that we built is protected from a cyber and privacy perspective. We had the mindset of our corporate sponsor. We got a new CEO right when COVID hit. She very much, our CEO is Tamara Vrooman, and she really understood the importance of digital and how it would help us move through COVID, and had a vision around how we could use digital twins. So really appreciative of her mindset. but we just started going. We just started building things and making things happen. I find when I talk to a lot of people, they spend a lot of time thinking about building the business case. We actually built the twin instead of a business case. We just took a small amount of money, we tried it, we started seeing value in it, and then we got it to build from there. So I think if I could recommend one thing, just start and make things happen is really, really important in the digital twin. It's kind of like saying we're going to build a runway and be able to figure out all the uses of a runway and how it will impact the economy and every person that wants to use an airport. It's very difficult. And then if you try to narrow down and try to find the one use case, it becomes too narrow and you really can't justify it. So just start moving, is how I would put it. We were also very fortunate that we had the YVR Data Hub. We had a pretty mature data analytics and business intelligence program at YVR, and a lot of users were very vested in it. So that has been important to us. Find friends. Friends are really important. Focus on the people that can see and they have the mindset to understand what is possible with the digital twin. And other people won't. There's people in the organization that will come with you over time. There's some people who see it right away. Some people are like hesitant. And then there's some people that will never see it. And I think that a lot of people try to get everyone on board when they start out with this. Just find a couple of people that you can do something with and show them the value of it. I think you'll see that everything that we've built is people first. It's all about getting tools in the hands of our people. When we first built this, it was like, okay, well, we're done. We built a proof of concept. And I'm like, well, is anyone using it yet? Well, no, because it's not quite doing this. And then we would, do a little more. Is anyone using it yet? Well, no, not yet. You could see through that process how quickly it could become shelfware, as Ryan talked about, but we were really, really focused on making sure that our users got the value out of it. And I think that's really paid off in the long run. And then we have an incredible team. We have a mindset, our team has a mindset of innovation. The border kiosks that are in many, many airports around the world, particularly in North America, we developed those in-house at YVR, and we have those are our kiosks that are located in those airports. And so we have had this history of innovation, and the team pivoted really, really quickly from our Border Express business to the digital twin. And so I just really, really appreciate the phenomenal colleagues I get to work with every day on this project. So it's been quite a journey. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I think we're going to go into fireside chat.
Yes, we are, Lynette, as I put my screen back up here. I have to start with, you mentioned air traffic dropped by 90%. I would actually call that a depression for your industry. So how in the name did you actually get the funding to go through this whole process? You said traffic just started, and this has been not just like a 6-month project, but you've been at this for a while.
Yeah, we were in, when COVID hit, we were in a construction project that was we were going to spend about 16 billion over multiple years. And in fact, in 2020, our plan was to spend almost $1 billion in construction, and we actually full stopped a number of projects. And so, yeah, you could say like, well, this is a really odd time to be investing that. Having said that, the cost of clicks versus concrete, way cheaper. So we invested a couple $1 million. I think it was 1.5 when we started out, is how much we earmarked for this. So really not a lot of money, relatively speaking, and we knew that it would save us a lot of money in the long run. So it was a very strategic move. And I think when I come back to the mindset, that was the mindset of our CEO, and certainly Ryan, you and I remember our first conversations. We were just like, yeah, let's go, let's make this happen. And then also a lot of people saw the value in it, and Unity saw the value in it and partnered with us to be able to help us deliver this. So I think that's how we did it, was just, we went for it.
I love it. So one of the things I've heard you, well, we've spoken about this, but I've also heard you speak a lot about, you really viewed your physical assets as the platform. You didn't really start from use cases. You started from really looking at everything in your organization as a platform to start with. Maybe if you can talk about that, how did that drive user adoption?
Yeah, our innovation prior to COVID was really focused on passenger processing and basically a product. And then when COVID hit, we were like, okay, well, what are all the assets? Like, what do we have? What can we use? And then we started looking around. And it's like, we have all kinds of assets. The airport itself actually is an asset. And from a technology point of view, it can really be used in different ways. And so where I talked earlier about, like, we have problems that need to be solved. And there's a lot of tech companies that are trying to prove out their technologies and see if they will work. I think that has been, we've just got so much response from industry in that capability. And the really great thing about an airport and the platform that we have here is it's a city. It's a construction zone, it's a mall. There's so many things that it really likens itself to. And so, but it's also in a very controlled environment. We control the environment, so testing and trialing, it makes it much easier to do at an airport. So it's kind of the perfect platform for innovation and trialing and getting into this metaverse place.
The metaverse place. Building on this thread, I really say, like, you talked about conversions of a number of vendors that you had to use, but I also look like there's a number of like data partners to really kind of merge, whether it was airlines or I saw like a Maximal database for maintenance. There's a huge number of different data sources. So maybe just talk about how do you bring the partners to the table to give you access to the data you need to really make this twin a reality.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey. As I said, we had quite a mature data, our data hub previously, and MLAT was something we were already working on. So getting the data that is provided by NAV Canada, and it's I wouldn't say it's publicly available, but it was available to us. What we had to do was put the transponders in around the airfield to be able to pick up the data, in which we actually had a capital program to do that prior to this. But even things like we've started talking to Boeing, and Boeing has, they have a company that provides all kinds of data on aviation, which we didn't even know was there. So I hired someone on our team that comes from Boeing Digital, and it's been phenomenal because we get to see all this new data that's available to us. So having conversations with Air Canada, with different airlines, when people start seeing the twin, they start seeing the value of it. I know, the digital twin is on the phones of our guest services people. I have the digital twin on my phone. I have it on my iPad. I look at it all the time, and I can tell you, I've had access to BI dashboards forever. Hardly look at them. I probably look at the twin a couple times a day now. So it's that visceral experience of seeing something in 3 dimensions or in a really solid 2-dimensional space that drives the adoption, and people just see the value of adding their data to the digital twin because it provides value to them as well as to us.
I'm likely going to quote you on that, but we have a number of questions. So first of all, thank you for your awesome presentation. But let's move to Q&A. I think Jeff just came online.
I did, and wonderful job, both of you. Lynette, I can't say strongly enough how good the feedback has been in chat and Q&A. People are loving what you've shared and what you've presented. I think you've created a lot of fans for the work that YVR is doing. So congratulations. So we have a lot of questions. So we're going to try to get through as many as we can. For those of you that we don't get to your question, first of all, I apologize. We will follow up and try to respond to those questions in writing post-webinar, but let's get going. Starting at the top, Lynette, a similar industry. Ariel says, I work for the port industry, marine and offshore. Do you see applicability to this industry? I'm thinking flow of material and cargo around the port. Then it goes on to further say things like finding containers, managing cranes, and having knowledge of trains and ships coming and growing. How could technology such as yours help us save time and money in our planning?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly the Port of City of Vancouver. Sorry, I should have had my phone off. The Port of Vancouver, we've been in discussions with them, and there's so many use cases in that industry. It's exactly the same. All those use cases you said are like right on. Also, the other C-SPAN that is located here, they're doing some work around a digital twin as well. So you're seeing this proliferation of a number of digital twins in different industries. And then what's interesting is how we would bring them together. So, you know, a lot of cruise ships come into the Port of Vancouver, and then those passengers come right to YVR and fly out again or fly in. So having that connection and that data, you can see where you bring those twins together, and it brings value to both organizations. But absolutely, there's applicability to the port industry.
Fantastic. You mentioned at the beginning, today being Indigenous Peoples Day. One of the question is, how is YVR recognizing reconciliation through the digital twin? And what benefit does this technology have for Indigenous communities in British Columbia?
Yeah, so so there's a number of things that we're doing generally at YVR, working with Musqueam, but specifically the twin we see as an opportunity for training and developing skill sets for First Nations people. We're doing some work with the Tech Council, First Nations Tech Council, looking at ways to get them more involved in it. The actual land, we're going to be integrating. They have a lot of GIS information about the original trails and pathways that they used to use, burial sites. We can integrate those into the digital twin. Also, you know, there's partnership opportunities for joint ventures. And so using the twin just to model it out, just from a straight up business perspective, is another opportunity.
That's fantastic. One more for you, Lynette, and I'll give you a break and throw one at Ryan. Not surprisingly, lots of interest in how you did this, you know, how it was built. Some questions around how long did it take to build the 2D and 3D digital twins? How many resources were involved? How was the team organized? Questions around costs. Was it internal or external? And then Ryan, after Lynette answers this, follow up to you. They want to understand what Unity's Accelerate Solutions team did as part of this. So Lynette, if you want to go first.
Yeah, so we had a fairly small team when we started out. The 2D model we started in about December 2020, and we had our first proof of concept in April. And that's where I was saying that we needed to refine. And I think it really started getting into the hands of the folks in the fall of last year. And now they have, our guest services team have it on their phones. So it will never be done. So you could just continue to iterate. Having an agile approach to how you develop this is really, really important. And a combination of internal resources and external resources. So originally, Unity did most of the development, and then they have done a lot to train up our developers in this new technology. And so we're starting to have a core group of developers that will do it. But as I said earlier, we always had developers, but they just developed on a different platform, and switching them over to the Unity platform actually was quite easy for them, and they're loving it. They really enjoy it. So we always look for the opportunities of having the right mix of internal and external. All the 3D modeling, that has been all external. That's all been done by GeoSim, because that's very, very high end specific expertise that you need in order to do that.
Yep, building on that, I mean, Lynette, when we started, I think was doing the ideation sessions and doing the planning. I think I showed some of the concept work, as I talked about last time. We really started with the concept phase to figure out what would work, what not, and really prioritizing what that proof of concept could look like. And it's a mentality. I said we were really Lynette's tip of the spear to get the first POC done, but really the goal was always to hand off to her team. And so we went from majority development to part of the development to really handing off. And candidly, as she was going through the demo, there's features that I have not seen yet. So I was as enthralled as everyone on the call.
Awesome. So, outside of cost and the pandemic, Lynette, what were some of the other challenges that you faced in building this and bringing it to life?
I think one of the challenges was to pick the first use cases. You can get really mired in what the use cases are. So we really tried to figure out where we could have a good user experience right out of the gate and who our friends were that we wanted to work with. But that problem hasn't gone away. The more people that see it, the more use cases. So it just kind of exponentially grows the number of things that you can do on the twin. So the challenge is to be able to, how do you scale this up to be able to respond? And we're starting to see people in different departments say, well, I have budget, I can do that, and they can pay for it. So we're working through what that looks like. We did a sessions with all of the different groups at YVR to help them, okay, what's possible, what kind of use cases would you like? And of course, there was a laundry list forever. And you could see the team kind of like getting really stuck, like, okay, well, what do we do? And so my conversation with them, okay, let's just pick the next three things. Like, don't try to figure out this really in-depth process and how it's going to be exactly fair or whatever, but what are the three things that you think we should do next on the twin? So it's kind of getting that input from the group, but then making the decisions. I mean, from a tech perspective, we're always, it's always the narrative that we're here to serve, we're here to enable, but you also have to lead and you also have to make those decisions. And so making that transition from the people that deliver the technology, exactly what the customer wants. It has to be customer focused, but at the same time, you have to provide that leadership and just step back and say, what do we think that we should do next? And it's actually gone over really well. And, people, and then that way we just keep moving and we get more done in the long run.
Great. This next question could have been mine because I'm curious about this as well. You mentioned looking at the digital twin multiple times a day, that it's become your new, business intelligence tool. Any plans to make that broadly available to passengers? Maybe I'm Ryan and I'm sitting at my house and I have a flight and I want to look real time at the digital twin and see what the passenger lines are looking like for security, so I know when to leave the house.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, we're looking at, we haven't done it yet. So there's the use case for every passenger that wants to know what's happening at the airport. I think people will be interested in. We have to make sure that we have the cyber and privacy and all of those things incorporated into it. But the other really interesting use cases that along the same vein is that we're working with the Rick Hansen Foundation. So people with disabilities, how do they get through the terminal and know what their, what path they have, where are the elevators, how do they, it's a challenge for them to move from getting here on SkyTrain and moving through the terminal. So being able to understand that before they come is really, really important. Also, people with autism. So we have a program where we bring in families with someone with autism, and we get them to experience what it is like to fly. We put them on a plane, and we've got very good feedback. But take that one step further so that they could experience that all before they leave the home. That is very calming for families, for those families.
Oh, that's great. Lynette, early on you mentioned the digital twin being a product of the Innovation Hub at YVR. Can you talk about some of the other projects that are currently underway at the Innovation Hub?
Yeah, so we have a project that's monitoring the pathogens in our HVAC system. So we partner with a company called Poppy and seeing if that technology can monitor pathogens. We're working with tech industries. So we put copper patches all over all the high touch areas within the terminal. I talked about Bosch They have lots of opportunities. We're looking at doing potentially some things around Canadian advanced air mobility. So how do drones integrate in airport environment? Being able to test that on a digital twin is much safer than doing it in real world. So there's a lot of discussion about what's the interface between airports and advanced air mobility. Everyone talks about what's in the air, which is very important, but also the infrastructure that's required. So drones need a place to land, they need a place to take off, they need to get people on or cargo on and off of it, they need to be stored, they need to be maintained, all the exact same things that an airport does. So how do we have some of those learnings and bring those two together and understand it better?
Great. Let's shift back to you, Ryan. We probably have time for another 3-4 questions. A lot of questions relating to areas outside of airports. A couple questions specific to schools and building a K through 12 school in the metaverse. What are your thoughts on taking the work that was done for YVR and applying it to other industries and maybe solving some problems like in education through a metaverse solution?
That's a great question. And well, as I said, the technology is applicable. So the building a collaborative environment that drives not just maybe business outcomes, but educational outcomes and things that you can't do in physical reality. And I think of having higher education that is available globally. And that creates tremendous new business opportunities. And we think about right now, if I want to go to Oxford, I have to travel there physically. Well, to be able to go there virtually and participate, Lynette was talking about emission standards and what are you actually contributing to changing our climate in the positive context. It means you have to adopt these technologies and rethink your business model and how do you have access to your customers. And so I think in that case is really working backwards of, all right, what is my new interface to my students going to be? And then how does this technology apply to enable new business models?
Great. I think 2 more questions. Lynette, we'll start with a tech one for you, then we'll wrap up with a question for the 2 of you. Some folks have been asking about the underlying technology that is being used to gather the real-time data of the people in the airport. Where are they? Where are they walking to? How do you gather that information? Is that all done with cameras?
Yeah, we use some camera technology. There's also there's different technologies out there that you can put sensors in. I haven't talked a lot about the IoT component of the digital twin, but of course, the more you want to sense, the more sensors you need. And so that's actually, we've been putting a lot of thought into how do we make sure that we're spending wisely. So you have to make sure that you're getting the right coverage and the right information that you need. Also making sure that technology will stay around because you don't want to be flipping in and out sensors. So there's a whole piece of work around the sensing part of the digital twin and how it integrates with it. But right now we're using camera technology.
Fantastic. Thank you, Lynette. Final question, then I'll do a quick wrap up. SIGGRAPH this year is obviously in Vancouver. Question for both of you. Any plans to be exhibiting, showcasing the tech that your team is working on, Ryan, or the work that your team has done, Lynette, at SIGGRAPH?
I'll let Lynette jump in. I don't know.
I haven't thought about it, but we could. Yeah, I mean, we're happy to tell the story and want to tell the story because we think that other people want other people to learn from it because we see the value of this technology for different industries for getting efficiencies and understanding on so many levels. So we think it's important for every industry to adopt it. So.
Yeah, and our Accelerate Solutions headquarters is actually in Vancouver. So we have not just Lynette's amazing digital twin, but certainly if you get in touch with our teams, we can give you a tour of other technology projects that we're doing from our facilities. We actually have something we call the holodeck, where we do a lot of our ideation sessions, but also where we do a lot of our R&D and kind of thinking about business problems and that convergence of technology. So yeah, really happy to welcome people as they come visit SIGGRAPH into our offices.
Awesome. Thank you both so much, Lynette and Ryan. Wonderful presentation. Thank you all of you who've joined us today and listened. As a reminder, an on-demand version of this webinar will be available within the next couple days. You'll get a email with a link to that. You're welcome to share it with other people. There will be another webinar in this Road to the Metaverse Executive Series taking place in about a month or two. We're still finalizing the details on that, so look for that. Look for more specifics on that. Lastly, if you have an interest in talking with our team and better understanding some of the options facing you and your industry and your company as it relates to digital twins or metaverse, please reach out. There's a link at the bottom in chat right now where you can do that. We'd love to talk with you, even if it's just a brainstorming discussion. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. We look forward to seeing you at the next session.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.